This weekend, Andy is going to Japan, Ryan has a reproduction, and we have a brawl in the 8-bit streets. I'm Ryan,
I'm Andy.
and this is Weekend Rental, episode 197. Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to yet another podcast. It is a frigid day here in our part of the world. I don't know if you've been managing to keep warm, Andy.
I didn't go outside today, so
That's
I
smart.
was that helped out a lot. So
You just bundled the kids up and pushed them out the door towards the bus. Good luck.
Yeah.
You look back 2 hours later, there's just like popsicles, human popsicles frozen in the driveway.
hopefully the bus came.
Yeah, it's one of those days where it isn't like ridiculously cold here. I mean, it's below zero, but in the grand scheme of things. But it's one of those days like where I started my car to come home for lunch. Did the whole auto start, and then drove all the way home. And that sucker never warmed up. Like, it was not blowing out hot air at all. Like, it was just too effing cold. So I was very cold. And my garage door, like, the lock froze up. So I couldn't get in like the side door and had to use the garage opener to get in. Not a huge deal, but
Oh jeez.
it's just, the joys of living where we do.
Mm-hmm. We had a pipe burst, so that was
No.
fun.
Frozen, I suppose.
Yep.
Interior or exterior?
Well, came from the exterior, it came to the end, and then it came inside to the pipe, and then there's a bend in the pipe, and that's what. So it was like a good solid 2 or 3 inches into the house that it even froze.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. I always worry about that too, like with my outside spigots, because it's like I try not to use them for like that last month before it gets cold. But
Oh, I'm sure the kids went down there and were like, "Oh, let's play with this," and turned it on.
well, I have one that has like a slow drip too, so like I literally have to like cap it every season. And I'm just waiting for that one. Like I just expect I'll come home one day and there'll be like a giant ice ball formed off. Yeah, that sucks. So they have to have a plumber come out and like cap it, and then come back in the spring.
Yeah, so I just cut the pipe up way farther up and put a valve in it and just shut that off for now.
Sure, yeah, that makes sense.
Put that in the summer, I guess. But
Nice. Gotta love impromptu home improvement or
yeah, I'm
maintenance
glad my
tasks.
basement isn't done yet. Otherwise, that would have been
Quite a bit
2
of
inches
water.
of water. Yeah.
Oh, really? Oof, yikes. Yeah, that's no fun at all. I did a little bit of home improvement too, but mine wasn't as much surprises. We just like updated my son's room a little bit, and I got to do some painting because I discovered that he had a nice bloody booger collection throughout the one wall in his house or the one wall in his room where his bunk bed used to be. So got to do the whole like, well, you're gonna scrape that off, and then Dad's gonna try and find some paint to match it, and so not nearly as brutal, but an unexpected job I wasn't planning on doing. The whole idea was just to get rid of his bunk bed finally and give him like a twin bed because he's getting older. But we had to do some nose goblin damage control.
Yeah. You don't see that on the HGN shows, do you?
Well, maybe that buried alive hoarders show. Like, there's got to be one where like one of those dudes just had like an infinite booger collection, right? Like on the wall.
Yeah, and then
Massive.
then you want to see like how they decorate, how are they going to come in and like remodel and decorate those houses. That's the show that needs to happen.
I feel like that's the show where they just should burn half of those places down. Like there's always the people too where they're like moving something. There's like a squished cat that's like been decomposing for like 8 years. And I don't get it.
Yeah. But if you put a new floor in, it'll sell for good money.
That's true. There's original hardwood floors under these 8 dead cats. They'll buff right out. Well, I suppose we could hit our topic list. I'll just touch on my first one quick because I just watched this on Sunday. But have you heard of that Let's Start a Cult movie? Like that comedy movie?
It sounds familiar, but you got to remind me what it is.
It's that comedian. I can't remember his last name, but it's like Stavros or whatever. He's like the big, bald Jewish looking dude. Like I guess it's one of those things where like where he self funded it and then it got picked up. And the premise is just kind of, you know, he kind of plays the role of the guy he plays in his comedy shows a lot, where he's just kind of like the obnoxious, like dirty joke, like idiot, and you know annoys the cult leader and is like always on the verge of like screwing up the whole like because it's a suicide cult thing basically. So I don't want to give too much of like the setup because it kind of ruins some of the start of the movie. But yeah, very funny movie, like really stupid, just dumb humor. Which those are the types of comedies that you just don't see anymore. So it's kind of nice to see. I will say like Stav is like mostly or completely nude in a few too many scenes. Like there's an interesting sex scene between him and a very aged, out of shape professional female wrestler that gets pretty graphic in a way that I didn't need to see. But
Wow.
yeah, funny movie though. It's just pretty ridiculous. It's you know, it's not a story that's like overly complex or anything, but it's a nice premise for some stupid comedy and some dumb jokes and some dark humor. So I think it just landed on Hulu. I think it's been around a while. Like you could buy it digitally and stuff. But I think you just got the streaming deal. I think it came last week maybe. But I do recommend watching it. It's pretty funny.
Huh. Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that out. What did you say was on?
It's on Hulu right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll have to check that out.
So, yeah.
Obviously not with kids around.
Yeah, no. There's some scenes immediately pretty much in that movie that you don't like kids around for. So yeah. Yeah, really good supporting cast too. He doesn't like have a ton of like well-known actors in it, but everybody did like really good roles. So
Oh.
I was impressed.
I saw the trailer for the new Tim Robinson movie called Friendship.
Oh, I saw some screenshots. I haven't seen the trailer yet.
Yeah, it seems like they're taking a sketch from I Think You Should Leave, just like the dumbest situation, and turning it into a huge movie and kind of making it serious. I mean, it's a comedy, obviously, but they're trying to play it serious, which makes it all that much more funny, I guess.
Is Paul Rudd in that? Is that what I saw?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean,
yeah, it's like this guy moves to this neighborhood, and then he gets invited to Paul Rudd's house as a neighbor,
Sure.
And they have a couple hangouts or whatever with his friends too, and then eventually they're like, I don't think we're a good friendship, or a good match. And then basically Tim Robinson's just like, you can't do that. You accepted me too fast. And it's just like a revenge plot the rest of the movie that
nice.
That he's no longer in the friend group or whatever. But yeah, I'll pretty much watch anything Tim Robinson does because
what else has he made? I don't know if I'm too familiar with.
He's the I Think You Should Leave Netflix show.
That dude, yeah, okay.
Yes,
okay, yep, gotcha. So I assume he's like the main character aside from Paul Rudd or opposite Paul Rudd. So okay. Yeah, and I saw the screenshot and I didn't recognize him, but he had his hair dyed gray, so that must have been what threw me off. So yeah, I'll have to check that out. Is that coming right to streaming or is that going to theaters?
I'm not sure. It's yeah, I'm guessing it would go to theaters at this point.
Yeah.
But you know what? Comedies don't really go to theaters anymore either, so.
No, nobody will make them. But, they'll crank out another Jurassic fucking Park reboot for some reason and throw a trailer out 9 months before that shit hits theaters. Like, we give a shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'll have to check that one out. I was interested in checking out the trailer. I just didn't click on it yet, so. What is I'm curious on yours. Like your items there's a few of them here that are just like so ambiguous. Like I don't know if these are like games or like things you're
I'll ask you what they are.
Okay. Which one would you like me to start with?
What is Citizen Sleeper 2, Ryan?
I mean, to me, this sounds like, if I'm gonna guess, I think it is a space travel game where you're transporting people on what are essentially like cruiser ships, and they sleep, and then it's just like a world expanding game on Steam where you just
Uh,
transport people.
you got the space part right.
Okay, okay. Citizen kind of made it kind of locks it into space, right? I don't
Yep.
know.
It's a very very heavy sci-fi um game. I play it on Xbox. It's on Game Pass right now. That it is so full of story. I mean, there is tons and tons of reading, and it basically comes down to like it's almost like a D&D campaign because it'll do a whole bunch of story and then it'll give you characters and like choices what to do.
Okay.
And basically you have to roll dice to see what outcomes you get, if it's a positive or a negative or a neutral. And there's modifiers and stuff like that and different places to go to do different things. So there's a little bit of a hub that you can go to different things.
Okay.
I played the first one. I enjoyed it a lot, although I think toward the end I was kind of just skipping through the dialogue through the story. It's very, very heavy. Like it'll spend like 2 paragraphs just like describing the room you're in and you know every adjective and detail possible, and it's just like okay,
Yeah, I can see that.
just say I'm in this room and there's a guy here and he's a
Sure.
mechanic or something, or you know, I don't need to I don't need to know everything that's going on, but it is a good risk reward system in it where you can decide, oh, I have a 3 on my dice. It has a 50% chance of negative or a 50% chance positive, or you know. So I think I don't know how much it actually like changes the outcome in the entire game. I think it just adds like negative effects that you might have to spend extra time to get rid of or something like that. But it gives you the illusion that your choices are making a difference. And, you know, like, oh, I won that dice roll, so something good happened. But it probably doesn't, you know.
Sure.
The one about this, the first one was on a huge star space station, basically. It's just one gigantic hub. And I think I like that better, even though you had to scroll forever. Like there'll be spots that you completed everything, you know, so then they're just like nodes on this map that you just have to scroll past. And I guess that part got annoying, but at least it gave you one like cohesive world that you were like, oh, I know those people, they're fighting this other group, or you know.
Sure.
This one so far, it seems like it. Oh, you're running from this guy. You get to this small space station. You do the jobs there. You like kind of earn money and stuff like that. And there's a countdown timer, and you have to like do all the stuff that you can do before that timer happens, and then you bust out of there, and then you go to the next place, and then there's some other like jobs that you can do, just kind of like one-off jobs that you go out in the space and like salvage a ship or something like that. There's things to do out there. And I just don't think I like that as much. And this one's not grabbing me quite as much as the first one. I don't know if
Sure.
it's because I don't have the patience. Maybe I did the first one, but
Seems like maybe they chose that direction so they didn't have to do as much cohesive world building. Like, you know what I mean? Like maybe they like it was such a time suck into the development of the first one that they couldn't replicate it and turn out a sequel.
yeah.
I don't know. I suppose it also gives you the option to throw in more things along the way, but yeah, I could see how that change might not be great.
And this one has like party members. I don't recall the first one having that. So it's like then also you have to manage these people and their dice and stuff like that. So it's more strategy and stuff like that, but at the other side it's more stuff to manage.
Okay. Yeah, I think you mentioned that it was on Game Pass. I think I did scroll past that because I was looking at what was newer to Game Pass. So, like, I recall the cover art now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if that sounds like something I'm into, but
And I'm playing on PC. I think I played the first one on Xbox and it was impossible because it's all text, you know, so
sure.
much text in it. So like
Yeah,
I was
see.
playing like right next to the screen the entire time, you know, to read all that shit.
Yeah.
Or PC is a little bit easier. I would not play this on an Xbox, I don't think.
Well, you're talking to the guy who's had a gaming PC for what, 3 or 4 years now, and I'm still just running it into a 4K television. So
Yeah.
I
Yep.
have text issues all the time. I should just buy a
Yep.
monitor. Like I picked one up on Black Friday this year, and I was like, yeah, but like I'll just make it do. It's fine. Yeah. Well, that's interesting. I mean, sounds like your type of game for sure.
Yeah.
Um, I played a new game.
Mm.
Well, not new, but new to our household. My daughter went over on a sleepover and then was talking up how like this ultimate chicken horse game, which I think has been around for 4 or 5 years,
Oh yeah.
was a big hit over there. So we grabbed it because it was like $6 on PSN. So put it on my son's PlayStation 5. And for anyone who's not familiar, it's basically just like Mario Maker, but in party mode where you're given a single screen. Well, not single screen. They scroll a bit, but you're given just a small level, and then each person gets random objects to place. Whether it's like helpful or hazard, and then you have to use those to build a path to the end of the level, but also keeping in mind that you want to kill other players. Because if everyone makes it to the end, nobody gets any points, right? So, pretty simple premise, pretty good. Like, sit down and like swear at your friends game. Like well, not with my children, but like things were getting heated even with our kids, like just freaking out. Yeah, I don't know. I could see why this game. Like I've heard people talk about this game a lot. I just never played it. I could see why people were talking about it. It's a really good, simple jump in, jump out indie game, and the mechanics work well. And it does a good job of kind of evening out the playing field. So like if you're having a particularly bad run, like it usually takes you a few good runs to get through a stage and declare a winner. Like if you've really sucked, but then you kind of come from behind with like a late game win, it'll give you tons of bonuses for, coming from behind and like really get kind of everybody to the same point to where it can be almost anyone's game. I mean, there's still skill is still going to help you, but it isn't always such a big gap when you're playing with people who are more casual or someone who's maybe hardcore into platformers or something. Yeah, my only complaint maybe with the game is the characters when they fall off the stage and die let out like horrific death screams, which are like pretty disturbing and like very unnecessarily loud. But other than that, it's fun.
Yeah. I think I brought this as a staff pick once.
Did you?
And yeah, this game is great. I love this game.
Yeah.
However, there's one child of mine that I don't think I can play with because he will just put roadblocks on things. It's not like even like I'm making this more challenging to get through.
Just like
It's
kill everybody.
Yeah, this is a
Yeah.
dead end now.
Yeah.
So
That's sort of what my son does. So basically, it just basically reverted to me like instantly picking the like dynamite or grenade
mhm.
and waiting for him to inevitably plant the black hole right in an unavoidable spot for everyone to fall into. So I would just always go last. I would like, no, you're gonna place your thing, and I'm gonna nuke it, and then we're gonna move on and play this fucking game. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yep.
I have a very hard time. I think if I played it more, it'd be better. But I have a very hard time controlling those characters because they're a little bit slippery, and there's like
Mhm.
a little bit of like this weird momentum gravity that just I overshoot or undershoot virtually everything. I mean, the wall jump makes up for some of that, but I feel like I am on the struggle bus most of the time trying to like play that like a Mario game.
Yeah, it definitely has a weird physics to it, especially the falling. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like it falls faster than you think it would. I don't know. I am trying to remember in my head how that worked, but yeah, I remember a lot of the other kids having problems with it because they're used to
Yeah.
simpler Mario platforming, and yeah, this is it's a little bit trickier.
Yeah, for sure. I think it'll be one we pick up and go back to from time to time as a family. It was great when we got my wife involved. Like she kind of came, she was out doing something and came back, and we had her jump in for a round. And she was like platforming across something, and then she's like, why am I just laying there?" And we had just like started all just laughing our asses off because she didn't realize that she'd been like killed and dead like for the last 30 seconds. So just laying up in a pile on the floor. That's
Yep.
great. Yeah. I could see
Yeah.
that game being a lot of fun too if they did a little more. I mean, I don't mind the graphics and the aesthetic; it's fine, but like a little more fidelity between the, I think some of the background designs and then the objects you're placing is a little
Mhm.
messy sometimes. Only in a few stages, but
Yeah, and a little bit more options. I feel like the
yeah,
one that always came up was like the pyramid one, and I felt like there was only like two paths in the whole thing, and then it was like, well,
yeah,
once you built up enough, there's just no way you could get through things, and yeah, you ended up like removing things just to beat the level.
yeah,
So yeah, just a little bit more like creativity on like maybe how that works
yeah. I
as far
think so
as
too. It seems like this is a really good first concept, but I think like a sequel could really kind of perfect a lot of the rough spots. And I'm not a huge fan of games where you have to run around the world to select the different stages or get to like options and stuff. I know it's like super
Mhm.
popular in like indie games, but like Spider Hex, another example where it's just like,
Mhm.
why did we have to do this? Like, can't we just do a menu? Like, I don't know. Minor complaints. Great game though. Fun couch co-op. I guess I should have listened to your recommendation a long time ago.
Yeah. Have you played Heave Ho?
I don't even know if I know what it is.
Okay, that I think that's probably our favorite in our house because
Okay.
it just like the kids will just be dying laughing because it's basically like just you're just a little ball with two arms and
Okay.
you control the arms with I think the sticks. Each arm is at one stick, and then the trigger is grabbing. So you're basically working together, like grabbing hands and like swinging yourselves and like trying to get to a
Oh
certain
yes.
spot.
I do know what this game is. Yeah.
Yeah, that game is incredible. And it's the same type of mischief, type of platforming that
Sure.
this game I feel like has too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'll have to check that one out. I've seen a few Let's Plays on that, but I've not tried it. I'm sure it's like $2 on something right
Something like that. Yeah.
now. Nice.
Yeah.
Uh, well, you got a game on here that I've been meaning to play, but I haven't. So, how is Power Washing in VR?
I booted it up tonight. It's actually I have we paid for a year of that, basically their Game
Service.
Pass, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, their Plus or whatever. And that's this month's game. And I expected it to be a little bit more hmm, better fidelity. It's
Oh,
pretty
okay.
fuzzy in there, I thought.
Okay.
But it is, I mean, it's the game, just like you expect, and it's got a little bit more interactivity to it. You're like actually changing the nozzles out and you have a belt around yourself to grab the different stuff.
Sure.
Um Amanda played tonight and she said that she was able to do this, but I was having trouble. Like you would expect that you'd just be able to like get on the floor and look under things and spray and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't doing that for me where like every time I moved my head or something down, the entire world went with it. So like
Oh,
it stayed
really?
in the same plane. And that really got me kind of sick,
Oh, yeah.
obviously. And it was disappointing because I was like, why would you not do that? I mean, the whole point of VR is actually being in the place. And if I
Yeah.
can't look under something to spray it, what's the point of this?
I wonder if it was just maybe like your play box or something didn't like register right because like I've definitely seen some people talk about it and like yeah, they're like getting on the floor so they can get under tractors and like spraying stuff out. So it
Okay.
must have been a calibration thing that the game
Yeah.
screwed you.
The only other thing I could think of is that maybe you can get into, like squatting and prone positions in the game. So I'm wondering if I was maybe in a squatting or prone position and then I tried to move also, and that's
Oh,
what it wasn't
sure.
like a freestanding. I don't know. But
Interesting.
Amanda, I was watching Amanda and she's basically on the floor looking up at things and spraying. So there has to be a way to do it. But I played most of I think I have played all of the levels in that, so it's like, well,
Right. Do you
there's
need to do it
nothing.
again? Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I'll never forget that night that we
I
did that
I was
water
hoping you
fountain.
wouldn't bring this up because I still get mad that you guys get that like super rare achievement, and I got kicked off with like what was it, like 94% done,
Yeah.
and like it was mostly you and I doing it because it turns out Biff sucks at virtual like power washing. Yeah, that made me so mad.
Yeah,
Uh
we spent like a good hour on that at least, right?
yeah, it was a
Yeah.
huge map. That yeah, that every time I think of that game, that's all I think about. I just kind of get pissed off. I do still have it installed though, and I almost like played it again the other day. But there's
Between that
a
and Citizen Zero or whatever that was, or Generation Zero, you really get screwed out of
oh
multiplayer games.
god, I wanted to like Generation Zero so much too, but I can't go back to it after it douched me like that.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
I saw there's a board game of that now.
Oh really?
Just weird.
Okay,
Yeah.
like tactics, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say since you brought up VR, I've been watching a lot more like Sea of Thieves videos because we got to the point with that game where it's like I'm good at understanding the game, but I want to learn how to do like PvP because that's where I suck. So I've been
Mm-hmm.
watching a lot of that stuff. But anyway, in the course of that, it came to my attention that somebody right now has a free VR like bootleg Sea of Thieves sort of game. It looks like really janky, but it's like free to play right now in like its early mode. So I think I might have to check that out. I forget the name of it. I'm sure like anybody could Google it and find it. But I was watching it. And it was like, yeah, it's just like boiled down like most of the mechanics of Sea of Thieves. Well, mostly like the skeleton levels. It's like you're gonna pick up a job, go kill some skeletons, grab a skull, unlock a chest. But there is some ship combat and stuff that looks kind of funny in VR. Very low fidelity though. Like textures are
Yeah.
pretty blah, but I don't know. Still kind of a cool idea.
Yeah. I I don't know if I could play a Sea of Thieves clone if the water doesn't look that good.
I know that is the best part of Sea of Thieves is
Mm-hmm.
it still always throws me off like how detailed and good that looks compared to the rest of the game. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll have to jump back into some more of that again.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why, but that game has just kind of been like my go-to for so many months now. Where it's like I'm gonna jump into anything, it's that. My son tried to get me to play Grounded again, but we're so far. Like I forgot like what we were doing and where we need to go.
Oh
And I
yeah.
can't like getting back into that game because its mechanics are so like wonky. It's really hard to jump back into.
Yeah, anything like base building and crafting and stuff, it's really hard to return to, I think, to
Yeah,
what you were doing.
you got to be in it and comfortable and fluid. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not like I'm just struggling like how to remember to like repair something, which sucks. I don't know. Something that also sucks. Well, not. Well, we talked about how I was going to sell off my collection last time, but then I also wanted that Atari game because they were putting out some new Atari carts. So if you follow us on Blue Sky, well, Weekend Rental, I'm using that as my Blue Sky because I don't have another one. So I just for whatever reason just see if we can get some clicks. I threw my picture of the Atari carts for the Atari Jaguar that I pre-ordered from Songbird, and I was shocked when I got that it's like a pure black cartridge. Usually, all of those things are in a different color shell. I don't think it has the exact shell. I'd have to look at the back of my legit carts, but anyway, for a game that's that rare, you'd think like putting something out there that looks so close to the original, usually in retro, kind of frowned upon. So I thought that was a little strange. The box and everything has the Songbird, logo on it, so it's not the first run, but yeah, very good quality. And this is that's like the one game on that console that's stupid expensive, right? And the one that
Yeah.
everyone's like, well, it's worth checking out. I've played it a little bit on emulators, or no, I've played it on real hardware at MJC, and it's not anything fantastic, but it's basically just a Mario Kart clone. Um, so I was pleased with that purchase. What I wasn't pleased about though is like I posted that on Blue Sky and like it got a couple likes, but then some dickhead like doesn't even comment on my post or like it or anything. He just reposts it and then uses it to go on a rant about how I use the word reproduction and how reproduction is a dirty word and we need to like find a better term. And then not only did he do that, but then he just like kept posting on his repost. Like the guy wrote like fucking 500 words on the stupidest shit. Like, who cares if I called it a reproduction? Then he had to point out that on their website they're calling it a reissue and it's a fully licensed game. I'm like, buddy,
Yeah,
I never
sure.
said this was a bootleg bullshit thing. That is not what I'm saying. I'm like, this is a reproduction. Reproduction doesn't mean bad. I mean, you can say reissue if you want, but
Yeah.
if it's a game that's being put out not by the original company for a console that doesn't exist anymore, I'm sorry. What the fuck? It just pissed me off.
Yeah, I feel like at this point, I mean, since limited run and all this stuff has happened, there's been more years of this type of reproduction than
Yes.
the illegal, like we're making donor cards and
like the
yeah,
the bad repro term. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
But I don't consider these anything. I to me there is not a better term for them than a reproduction. You know,
Yeah.
even if it's, I mean, there's the new games that are coming out on old cartridges. That's different. But if you're literally licensed or not, I mean, taking that cartridge and just making another new one at this day and age, that is a reproduction. I'm sorry.
Yep, it's the same thing. Yep.
It was just like, just the shit in this hobby, like stuff like that just makes me want to slap somebody. Just like, yeah, you can't just have fun with something or be like, oh, cool, Atari carts again. Like, how neat. You know, it's just like, get on your soapbox and like bitch about the terminology being used. And I was pretty annoyed with it.
Yeah. It's and what are you supposed to call anything else, you know? Even like Capcom's, they're all doing this stuff.
Yeah.
Through Fangamer and all that stuff. Like those are all reproductions.
I'm pretty sure like on like some of that stuff, like Castlevania games and stuff, like they've literally used the term reproduction. I don't think they're using like a reprint. I mean, I don't fucking know. Just that sort of like, you know, gatekeeping bullshit just irritates me.
Yeah.
And I'm still irritated with like Blue Sky on like getting traction on that platform. I don't know what you have to do to get people to see posts, but it's like throwing stuff into the void.
Yeah, there's not a lot going on there. I started my own, and I'm actually posting, which I've never really done any of this stuff. I mean, maybe when Twitter first came out.
I was gonna say you had a pretty big following for a while on Twitter, didn't you? Like
a little bit, yeah. But like that was not.
Yes.
Yeah, it wasn't due to my posts, I guess. And
Right.
I mean, for the last decade or more, it's basically just lurking on Twitter that I've been doing, you know. So,
right.
So I've been actually trying to use Blue Sky, and yeah, you don't really get anything.
No, well, I'm even posting about sports, so I haven't really had anything to comment. So
yeah, I'm kind of all over the place.
Foosball, I don't know. Yeah, well, that's my other thing is like it's just so hard to like, even the people you follow, like the feed just doesn't seem to like come through in a consistent or logical way. I don't know.
Well, what's weird is that the following feed is the people you follow, obviously, but then when you go to the discover feed, it's still like stuff that you're following. It's like, well, that shouldn't be discover. You're already following those people.
I noticed that too. You're right. Well, it's still better than nothing, I guess. But
yeah.
Well, okay, let's go to Japan.
Should we?
Well, I thought you were going to, based on this.
Oh, that's what we're doing. Okay, we're here to announce that's what we're doing for our 200th episode. We're going to Japan.
Wouldn't that be fun? I would be down with that. There's still time. So yeah, I saw this on your agenda, and I was like, "Oh, they're going to Japan. That's gonna be sick." And then I just Googled it, and yeah, it's a board game.
We went to Japan. Yep, we definitely went to Japan a few times. Yeah, it's a board game, basically with cards. It's basically laying down cards, and they're popular things to do in Japan. and mostly focused in Kyoto and Tokyo. And the strategy is basically it's laying down the itinerary of what you're going to do in your week in Japan,
Okay.
and trying to get the most points and the best combos, stuff like that. Least amount of like traveling between Kyoto and Tokyo as possible, because obviously you're spending time doing that. And yeah, it's a good strategy game because you're using the same cards for each other and kind of drafting them to best fit however your itinerary is going. So yeah, it's kind of good, and good artwork. Obviously, cool seeing cool things that you can do there.
Sure.
And by the end of this, when I do go to Japan someday,
You can have it all locked
it'll
down.
be done. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll know the best. I'll be the master. I can be your travel agent.
Maybe that's what they're doing is they're secretly, just promoting tourism and travel agent skills so that they'll beef up their economy. That's probably what's happening.
Yep. Graphics cards are getting too expensive to train AIs, so they're just using people.
That's funny. I hadn't heard of that one. Where'd you find that one at? Was that like a random online shop or
This
just
we've been playing it on Board Game Arena,
oh,
so
okay.
it's
Online.
online right now.
Sure, sure.
But I think, yeah, I mean, it's a real game. We just played on there. But
Nice. I forget the name of it now. I was gonna put it on the agenda. We actually picked up a new board game, air quotes, because it came in a box. I wouldn't call it a board game. I forget what it is. It was on clearance at Target or on sale, but it's basically like Jenga, but with a deck of cards.
oh,
So it's like you take any bottle and you like put a magnetic cap on the top of it, and then you have to just insert plastic playing cards into it by color, and the goal is to not tip the bottle. So
huh.
it's like a dumber kind of version of Jenga. Like it'd be probably pretty good if you're like drinking or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like super unwieldy if you're using like I think if you're probably using like a glass beer bottle, it'd be a little more stable. But we were playing with like a 20-ounce empty pop bottle, and I don't know. It's fun. It's like if you want a game that is literally like it fits in like a small bag and it's just the size of a deck of cards and take it camping or whatever, it's good for that. The fact that it hinges on you needing to have a bottle around to play it, I don't know. Like,
Well, yeah,
there was a reason it was on sale.
yeah.
It's fun. It's one of those games where it's like, okay, it's cool for like 2 rounds, and like we'll put it away. But yeah,
Huh.
it just felt like somebody made a more stupid version of Jenga's. Kind of the gist of it. I don't hate it, but not amazing.
Yeah.
I'm glad it
It's
did.
funny how there's like a hard line that when you look at board games at Target, almost like a hard line of like on the left are all the games for drunk people, and on the right
Yes.
are all the nerds.
Yeah, they have like a whole section. I feel like that's like adult party game only. It's really
Yeah.
weird. I don't know. Yeah. It's a if you see it, I can't remember the name. You would look at the back and instantly know it. I would say it's probably a
Tippy
pass
bottle, right?
unless it's yeah, tippy bottle. It sounds good. Do I have anything else? Oh yeah, I got one last thing. So, as you know, and most of the listeners know, I'm a huge fan of Supernatural. And I messaged you in between recording last time because it looks like Supernatural is almost guaranteed to leave streaming and go away from Netflix at some point this year. The date hasn't been determined, and they could re-up as well. But I knew you were watching that, so I like gave you a heads up because like, you should probably finish that. And you said you're on season 13, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so you're in the home stretch. But I like kind of panicked, and I was like, well, that sucks because it's like one of our favorite shows, and we've been going back and rewatching it. And I think we own probably like the first 7 or 8 seasons because we were buying and then transitioned to Blu-ray as soon as that became available. But then stuff started going day and date with DVD release to Netflix, and that's when we stopped buying them because that was our thing. Was like we would just binge them every holiday, like New Year's Eve, or New Year's Day, New Year's Eve before we had kids. We would like literally just binge the whole season. And so anyway, being it's my wife and I's like favorite show, I was like, it really sucks that I won't be able to watch it, and like I've wanted that complete collection for a while, but the printing is notoriously bad. The packaging's bad, and there's a lot of discs that sometimes don't play between the DVD set and the Blu-ray set. But anyway, because I suppose I've been like Googling stuff, I got a news feed that came up. Hey, the complete Supernatural series is like 50% off right now on Amazon, right? I was like, wow, fuck. Let me go look, right? Because what does 50% off mean? Because initially it retailed at $300, right? And
Yeah.
like, that's still a lot. But I went out there and it was like a repackaged version, because I suppose, again, faulty packaging and bad discs. I'm guessing the manufacturers had to piece some of these back together. And it was like $100. So I was like, I'm like, now's the time. Like, I have to buy this. So I did pull the trigger and got that. And it is a ridiculous number of Blu-rays. Like, I think it's like 56 Blu-rays. And the runtime is like 13,700 minutes. And I don't know that I'll actually, hopefully I don't ever have to actually go back to the point where I'm like putting these discs in again. Hopefully I'll have a way to stream them. But I do like that I've got, the whole series now in one giant box set. So.
Yeah. What was the, I was going to look up, what was the DVDs even? That was insane.
It was like 80. I think you said it was 86 or something. Like
okay.
That.
Yeah.
It was significantly more.
That's a lot of discs.
Yeah. And it sucks because it's in 3 of those like really shitty, kind of like late, I don't know who was manufacturing them, but it like mid 2000s, kind of like end of DVD run, where it's like the big plastic book with like the inserty like plastic sleeves inside. And they stack multiple discs on them. So like for one, those pages fall out, the discs fall off. So like the first thing I had to do was like take it apart, open it all up, put the discs back that it had inevitably fallen off. And we had a little bit of a scare too, because it was supposed to come on Sunday. And for whatever reason, I think you and I talked about it, and the only reason we could formulate it was like because I had that package stolen and reported it stolen over Christmas. Like I had like this weird thing from Amazon where they're like, you're gonna get a one-time passcode on the day that it's delivered, and you're gonna have to give that to your delivery driver in person. I was like, I never heard of this, and like nobody else I'd talked to had ever heard of it. It's a thing, I guess. But anyway, we got kind of like freaked out because this was supposed to come on Sunday. So as I mentioned, we redid my son's room over the weekend. So on Saturday, we had a bunch of stuff that we took out of his room that he didn't want anymore. So we did our usual thing where we just ran to the thrift store to donate it because it's just easier. I don't want to dick around with selling it. Why throw it away? So we live very near one. Anyway, so we leave, tell the kids we're going to go drop that off. My kids are at home. Well, I have a teenager now, so they're not like children. But anyway, we get back and we're driving by the house because we're also going to stop at the grocery store before we head home. And I look at my driveway. I was like, why the fuck is there a car in our driveway? So I'm like, this isn't. So like I pull up behind this person, like box him into my driveway because like this is not good. Like what's this? And then my dipshit son is just sitting in the fucking. They don't answer the door. Apparently the guy had rang the doorbell, which I saw on my blink cam, and I'd got the notification, but I'm driving, so I'm not looking. Right. My son's just like sitting there with his face in the glass. So I was like, what is going on? My son's a moron. But anyway, like the guy pops out. He looks like any other Midwestern like neckbeard dude, and like this is like, hey, I got a package for you. I was like, oh, I'm like, okay, like you're not here to murder my children. Great. So yeah, it turns out I did have to give him the passcode thing, and then I let him back out of my driveway because it boxed him in, and then had to come into the house and explain to my son that if we're not home and somebody knocks on the door, like stay the fuck out of the window. Like, what are you doing? Like, come on. Yeah. So a little bit nerve wracking to get my box set. But, yeah.
To get some Blu-rays. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, just like random car in your driveway, like 2 p.m. on a Saturday. You're like, what's going on? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. We're in season 13 now. And my gosh, they're just bringing people back. When
they do the whole like alternate universe thing. Yeah.
And I don't know. Yeah. It's just like, yeah, they're fitting in people from all over the place and everywhere. They're bringing everybody back.
Yeah.
In every way that they could possibly do it.
New Bobby, new mom. Yeah. Yeah. They kind of took some liberties to bring some people back in, I think. And I still have a hard time with the final season just because like COVID ruined it to such a large extent. Like they didn't get to have a lot of the cameos, like the final sequences and
Mhm.
stuff that they should have maybe had. But yeah, it
It,
should
it's
it
fun to
definitely goes
just
places.
it's just fun to go along with it at this point. It's like, of course, Rowena is alive again, or
Yeah.
like
Well, somebody's got
we're
to be in
back.
hell.
Yeah, yeah.
I I just like it's funny when you get to that point in the series because you just think about how comical it all is because like remember the first couple of seasons where they're like, holy shit, demons are real. And they're just like they're crapping their pants. So like no one's ever defeated a demon. And then it's like by that, at that point in the show, they're like plunking them left and right, like they're, popping Pez. It's just so stupid. Uh yeah. I do like you've probably gotten to the point where have you gotten to the episode with Hitler?
I don't think so.
Okay, I don't want to ruin that for you.
No,
Yeah. Yeah.
we did have to jump ahead a little bit again to watch the Scooby Doo one because that one's so good.
It is so good. Yeah. There's a lot of those. That's the great thing about that series is like even in like the shittiest seasons where they get caught down on like the angel demon bullshit, there's always a couple good bottle episodes.
Yeah,
The only but my wife and I were just talking about that too, obviously because we had the series and we're really talking about it. But I just I hate the trickster. Like they bring him back way too much. He's
hmm
annoying. You always know that he's gonna be the guy because like by the second time you figured it out. Like you're like I know exactly where this is going. And then like that revelation later on that he's actually like an angel the whole time and he's not like whatever fucking trickster monster they made him out to be. I don't know. I hate that guy, and he's in way too many episodes. He's the Slappy of Goosebumps. Like everybody hates him, but they put him in
yeah.
everything.
Well, even in this season, there was an episode where they're like, "Could it be the trickster that's doing this?" And they're just like, "No, he's dead." And they just like,
Yeah, sure. Because that's how things work in Supernatural. Everybody
uh,
stays dead. Yeah. I am kind of concerned now, though, that I've invested in this complete series that they're just going to inevitably announce like that return date because it seems like they're all but guaranteed to do a season 16 at this point. Everyone's talked about it. I think CW probably wants to do it.
yeah. I mean, that's usually what happens with box sets. As soon as you buy one, then something new comes out. So,
Yeah,
but you're used to that with the vinyl, right?
that's true. That's very true. And at least I can bludgeon the next delivery driver that parks in my driveway with it, so it's self defense. Yeah,
Passcode is violence.
I I still am like super annoyed with that. Like that's asking a lot. Like if it was a more expensive item, I'd be maybe not as surprised by it. But it's $100 item. Like I order $100 items all the time. Why does this one need a passcode?
Yeah, and not just a signature or something like that. Yeah.
Right. Dumb. Well,
Do
should we get
you
to? Oh, go
do,
ahead.
do you have a different Amazon driver every day?
Yes. But I think that's because we've got like that distribution center. So like I'm pretty sure those guys just like check out a truck and just go wherever. Like whatever's loaded on that shit that day, they just do.
Okay.
Yeah, I never
Okay.
have a consistent one.
Yeah. So same here. It's weird to
And
me that there's no like you would think that they would keep the same people because then you would have
have a
better
route. Right.
efficiency on the route. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe like some ownership and, having pride in that. But I'm amazed at how often I get Amazon stuff handed off to the post office too. I'd say I'm
Oh,
probably like
hmm,
50-50. Like stuff just gets brought with my mail.
hmm. Yeah, we don't get that really. Used to be UPS and all that, but not so much anymore.
Yeah, I do get annoyed though. Like this guy, it is funny that this guy rang the Blink doorbell, but like I get so annoyed at how many times like I bought your Amazon fucking digital doorbell. Like, just ring the button. Like, just ring the button so I know that you dropped it off. Like you don't have to take the picture and send it to me. Like
Right.
it's all in your system. I don't know.
Half the time we have like some sort of beverage in a can that we get ordered. So
Sure.
yeah, they'll just leave it outside and it'd be nice to know sometimes when it's
Yeah.
there.
Exactly. Yeah. I heard speaking of like things you don't want out in the cold. I did the obligatory like flower order for this Friday, and I'm just like, stocking the temps because I'm like, oh god, it's gonna be so cold. Like they're all gonna die. Like I just wasted $100. So we'll see. Hopefully my wife is gonna be able to answer, but I don't know what time they'll drop that off.
Yeah.
Valentine's Day. Good stuff. Should we get to staff picks?
I want to talk about the floor first. I want to go on a rant.
Did I miss
Is that
one?
okay?
Oh, I did miss one. I'm sorry. What is the floor? Or
This is
your
a
floor.
No, not even my floor. This is it wasn't even the worst thing to watch on this last Sunday. Or it was the worst thing to watch, I
Wait,
should
what
say.
was last Sunday?
Super
Did I
Bowl.
miss something? Oh.
Yeah, what happened?
The foosball happened?
The after that, they said, they most of the time the network that has the Super Bowl, they advertise their biggest show,
Right.
because it's just things coming right after that. Are you aware of this game show called The Floor?
No.
Rob Lowe.
Oh,
It's
I'm
just people standing on different sections on this floor for the entire hour. And basically it's like you have to conquer the people around you by beating them at their expertise in trivia.
Okay.
Seems like a decent idea, other than making people stand there for an hour. And they milk this one. I mean, the whole thing is a whole season of the show, because it's obviously takes a long time to go through all these people and all these different sections. What got me rolling on the floor laughing is the actual trivia in this game, because they'll say, okay, come up here and challenge this other person, and the trivia is pets, right?
Okay.
And what they do is they just show pictures of something, and you have to say what the picture is, and you go back and forth, and it's basically just a timer for how long it's been your turn till it goes down to 0, then you lose. It's the most insulting thing I've ever seen in my life. I think it's just trying to troll people. I think that's like people are hate watching, because I watched the whole hour just enthralled about how stupid this was.
Okay.
Because like, let's say one of them was pets, right? And they'll just show a dog, and then the person will be dog, and the next one will be a cat, and they'll just go picture, and then like a parrot will come up, and they're like, pets, I don't know. So then it goes to the other person, and they're just like, raccoon, all this other stuff, which isn't a pet anyway. They're just animals at this point.
Okay.
And then a ferret will pop up, and they're like, oh, I don't know what that is. And then, they'll be like, pass. Oh, that was a ferret? Oh, that shouldn't be an animal, or it shouldn't be a pet. Never heard of it. And everything is like this.
Sounds like a 2-year-old's version of trivia, right? Like you're holding up pictures of something.
Yeah, it's like flashcards for like it's a cognitive test more than trivia. It's blows my mind. That's like their most popular show at this point. And I don't know if it's because it makes people feel smart, or if it actually is like people like me who are just like absolutely raging that this is like a popular thing.
I mean, it seems like it's geared at like the TikTok generation, right? Where it's like you can only handle like 5 seconds of something on your face at a time. So yeah, that sounds awful. You lost me at Rob Lowe, so I hate that.
Yeah, and he has I mean, he doesn't want to be there. He makes no jokes. There's nothing to it,
Sure.
Like he just the whole thing is a botched execution of a somewhat maybe good idea. I did see one of the guys standing there was his expertise was convenience store items, and the guy looked really familiar. And it finally clicked in my head. It's the guy from Clerks. Dante
so
from
celebrities Clerks. They bring in? Well,
apparently,
celebrity.
I mean, a lot of them are just like blonde,
the blonde guy,
social media influencers who don't know what
sure
home decor. I mean, their home decor section was like bed, table, coffee table. It was just ridiculous.
Sounds awful and lazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wonder if they have to pay for the images they show, or if they're just like they
I
bought like a
don't.
gallery of like JPEGs and like, yep, we'll go with this.
I was just rolling on the floor laughing so hard because these people are like, my expertise is this, and then they would just lose on the dumb. They didn't even know a simple thing that anybody with eyeballs would know what the word is. But,
Yeah, it sounds like a terrible game show.
mhm.
Terrible.
Fox
Huh.
used to be a good, you know, like you had The Simpsons, you had Married with Children, you had all those like cutting edge things, and now it just seems like everything is so dumbed down. Like
Yeah.
Mass Singer stuff, I can't like all that stuff. I just can't get on the same level with. Just seems weird.
90s Fox was good. I always think back
Yep.
to like the heyday of like Mad TV, like when that was like
Mm-hmm.
actually better than most of the SNL stuff at the time,
Yeah.
and the mid to late 2000 or 90s was great. But I mean, that's kind of the state of TV in general, right? Is like just, I mean, the fact that ridiculousness is basically what MTV is anymore is like that's very telling of the world we now live in. I
Yeah.
mean, we're fucking what 6 months away from Idiocracy and like Ow My Balls.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like that's pretty much where we're at.
There's a CBS show called FBI: CIA.
Nice.
So yeah, we're heading that direction where everything is just the simplest delivery mechanism for basically nothing.
For morons.
Yeah.
Yikes. All right. Well, now should we get to staff picks?
Yes.
I didn't mean to cut your list short. I totally missed that one. I'll let you go first. I think I know what this is.
Yeah, it's worms. It's been around forever.
You've got
Um,
worms.
yeah, use them for fishing, that type of thing.
Yeah.
No, this is Worms WMD, the version of the Worms series where a giant map of tiny worms, and you use a bunch of different cool weapons to attack and obliterate all the other opposing worms on the map. And it's a pretty good time, especially with people
Yeah.
and family.
Yeah. It's a fun game. Like I always like when I think of the worms games, I always go back to like that like DOS freeware game where it was like basically worms, but it was like two giant King Kongs and you like hucked bananas that exploded at each other.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like Worms is just like a far superior version of that, where there's like actually a movement and some additional strategy.
Yeah, and there's so much like this WMD thing. There's like vehicles and there's like a whole bunch of stuff in that game. Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and it's got a good system. I think the best part of Worms is like you go in there like you have a good strategy and a good idea, and you pick the right weapon, and then
Yeah.
either you botch the execution or something happens that you didn't expect, and the whole plan just goes to shit.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, I'm
think
pretty
that's the best part.
notorious in that game of like either accidentally clipping something I didn't intend to and botching my shot, or like you're getting it to the point where like your explosion radius is like 3 pixels away from like the dude you wanted to kill. Like
Yep.
every time. Like I always like come up short.
Yep. It does a really good job of that. Of at least 50% of the time, I feel like you're not going to do what you think you're going to do. So when
Yeah.
it does happen, it makes it that much more victorious that you're able to pull off something like that.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, great games. Is that the one that's on Game Pass right now? There's a couple of them on Game Pass. It's that one.
Yeah, I don't know. I got it on Steam a while ago, so
Okay.
we've been playing on PC, but
Got the
yeah.
whole family involved.
Yep.
That's a good game for that. I do have a little bit of a tough time with that game and the art design though, because I still feel like those worms a lot of times just look like big toes with like tails. I don't know.
Yeah, they
I don't
do.
know why they look more like
Yeah.
toes than worms. Yeah.
Yeah. And they are, I mean, they are pretty small. Like on the TV, it does get a little bit hard to navigate because it's you're such a small worm on a big map and a lot of zoom in and out. But
can you do more than 4 players on those newer ones? Or is it still capped at like 4 player?
I don't know. because I think you get 4 worms for each player, and I don't know if you can do more than that. I would say it's probably 6.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it seems like you could expand it more. I'm mostly just used to the console versions. I didn't really play the PC ones too much, which I'm
Yeah,
sure they limit. Consoles probably limited it 4 for most of
the
those
the
entries.
the, the mod scene is intense.
Oh yeah,
Like the 2 decades of people like making maps and weapons and stuff like that. It's pretty crazy.
that's awesome.
I haven't done any of it, but from what I can tell, there's
You haven't
work being
installed
done.
the uniform dance mod on this game yet?
Someday.
Okay. Yeah, Worms is great. I was just actually looking at that the other day on Game Pass and thinking I should play some, so it's funny.
Yeah.
Um, my pick, I went with AP Bio. So this show is, I guess it got canceled twice. It was on NBC for 2 seasons, got canceled. Then they took it, put it on Peacock, and ordered up 2 more seasons and canceled it again. I think it ended like 3 years ago.
Oh, it's over now?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's done. Um, so what's his name from Sunny in Philadelphia? Glenn, is it Howerton? Glenn, the guy who plays Dennis.
Dennis, yeah.
He basically plays Dennis in this, which is funny because like anytime you see virtually any of the side projects of the Sunny in Philadelphia cast, they're always still just playing their character from Sunny.
Well, have you seen the new show that has D in it?
No, but I saw her previous one, the Mick, where she was just playing D.
Yeah. This new one, she's like playing straight. Like
Okay.
it's it's kind of like a somewhat comedic drama, maybe. I don't know. It's really tough. Like you said, those characters are so zoned in on what they were that it's really hard for them to play anything else in
Yeah, I
my
mean,
eye. And
and that show's been on for like 20 years now, so
yeah.
it's pretty wild. But yeah, this one is basically, the premise is basically, the Dennis character is it's like Dennis if his superiority and derangement was genuinely backed up by a Harvard education and like some success, and he has now fallen from grace and lost his tenure at Harvard, got fired, and like has to move back home, and gets picked up a job at the local high school to be an AP bio teacher, even though he's a writer, um, and basically he just comes into the class and is like, look, the school wants me here because they have a Harvard person on staff, which makes them look good. He's like, and I need money so I can write my next book and get out of like this shithole. So he's like, I'm going to teach you nothing and you're not going to learn anything about AP bio. And it's basically like the premise of the show. So then like the first, like, I like it because the insanity of that Dennis character, in Sunny in Philadelphia, there's nobody to rein that in because they're all crazy too. Like here, he's surrounded by like funnier characters and like students. So like he slowly learns to build a conscience. So there's like sort of a redemption arc to him. But the first season is just like straight crazy. And he's just like coming in every day, like writing on the chalkboard, like his plans to like take down his nemesis, or like, and then he'll be like, we're going to take down this guy. I'm going to bang every fucking woman in like Toledo or wherever they're at. And then the students are just like, okay. He's like, and you're going to help me with this revenge plot, or you all get F's. So he's just like completely screwing over these poor kids that just want to learn science. Yeah, it's pretty funny. And then I think my favorite running bit is like every time he walks into the classroom, he always throws an apple in the trash, but never gets it anywhere near it. And like some of the episodes, he's just like coming in like fucking baseball, hucking it off the wall, and it's exploding everywhere. And every episode he does this. It's great. I think I saw the first one finally. We're halfway through season 2. And he like actually throws one in the trash can for like the first time ever, which is amazing. But yeah, pretty wild show. The first season is bonkers. You can tell like by the second season they like really tried to like ground him a little more and like give some more time to the supporting cast. Great supporting cast too. You've got like Patton Oswalt, and a bunch of other people you'll have recognized. So if you're a Sunny fan and you like the Dennis character, this is gonna be right up your alley. And some of the student actors are just hilarious too.
Well, that's I mean that's the thing that good to know because that's what I was like. I can't see him playing anybody else other than, but if he's similar attitude and that at least you can kind of go with that.
Yeah, yeah, like perfect example. He thinks he's too high and mighty to date anyone locally in
Oh
Tucson,
yeah,
so
that's Dennis.
he just like hops on a bus to take like a 6 hour bus to New York to do Tinder dates to try and get laid, and then comes back. So he's basically like not sleeping because he's just so elitist that he can't
That is
possibly crush girls
totally
in
a
the
Always
Midwest.
Sunny plot for
Yeah,
sure.
it's so funny.
Uh,
Yeah, and I'd heard of it, like, and I guess it like reviewed well, but just never found really much of an audience. So, which I think is pretty indicative of any show anymore. So,
well, that means you have a good comedy. I mean, you think about Family Guy was originally not to say that that was great, but
yeah,
that was canceled. How many times was Community canceled? It
right.
just goes on and on about kind of in that space. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. What is it? Like, yeah, comedy, everything. Comedy movies, comedy sitcoms. But for some reason, we can get like 45 spinoffs of The Big Bang Theory, which I'll never understand. So,
Hmm. Well, that's the same crowd that's watching the floor now,
yeah.
but the Big Bang Theory's gone.
Well, and they're watching that third iteration of Home Improvement that Tim Allen is
Yeah.
currently getting
Yeah.
on TV. So, I don't know. Anyway, well, I guess it's probably weekend rental time.
Oh, for sure.
This is going to be a very in-depth conversation, guys. So buckle up for this one. If you're not familiar, the weekend rental, we pick a game for a given system. Andy and I will both play it, and we'll decide whether we would personally buy, rent, or burn that game. And we do mean light it on fire. System of choice this episode is the good old NES. The game, though, is Urban Champion, a black box street brawling bonanza on the old 8-bit Nintendo. You're two dudes who look the same but have different color hair and shirts, and you punch high, you punch low, or you block in the street. That's the game.
That's the game.
For
That's
like what feels like an eternity, but I think it's like a 3-minute timer, right?
right. Yeah. And there's something to do with stamina, but I never really I mean, maybe later in the game that comes into play more, but you know what? You get the point of this game rather quick because it is just that. Um, it's punching. It's in a lot of ways, it's a kind of prototype of Punch Out, right? Because you got
Sure,
the pattern recognition
sure.
of what you need to do to punch.
The prototype of Punch Out makes it seem a lot more promising though than what this game actually is.
Okay, well, I was about to say it's also a prototype of Smash Brothers in some ways too, because it's kind of a
There's elements
fighting game to push somebody
off the
to a
edge,
certain spot. Yeah, off the
right? Because
edge.
yeah, because it's not a that's the thing with this game is it's got very shallow mechanics, but you're not just contained to one single screen. You basically have to punch a guy across 3 city blocks and ultimately punch him into a manhole to win. And if you don't get him in the manhole, you just wasted all that time and for nothing. You've lost it. But I think what kills this game though is like there just is no depth to the fighting, and the characters are so small in the screen, and there's just really not a lot of strategy to what the CPU is doing. You know what I mean? So you're just kind of like just button mashing, hoping the timing lands to like knock the guy back. And I guess they tried some interesting stuff, like people will just inexplicably throw shit out their window because you're fighting over apartment in front of apartment buildings to like try and randomly knock you in the head. And then the cute mechanic of every so often a cop car comes by with its sirens flashing, and then both you and the computer just like walk back to your respective corners and like act like you're not doing anything. But it's also super frustrating when you're kicking somebody's ass and then that happens and then you've just lost your entire progress because the cop car resets that.
Yeah. I suppose you know that now that you say that there is something that happens in the gameplay that does that, because I posted on Blue Sky like, is this? I was impressed that this was like the very first, like, was this the first non sequitur that something happens in a video game that is kind of story based in the
Sure.
world, but it doesn't really have anything to do with the gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
Especially for Black Box, that seemed impressive to me. But yeah, now that you say that, it does kind of reset back to the center on whatever screen you're on.
Yeah. It's kind of a bummer.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
cops
cool and
messed
it's
everything up.
funny.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, even Nintendo, for how family friendly they were, that was kind of weird to be like, well, just
Yeah.
watch out for the cops.
Yeah.
Busters here.
It does feel a little edgy for what, they were doing in that era of Nintendo. Um, but, as much as like it's got it doesn't even feel like it has a real Nintendo aesthetic is the thing that's kind of like weird for me. And it's got a decent premise, but I just think like to me this has always stood out as, I mean, maybe edutainment games aside, this has always stood out as like the worst black box game. Like even some of the more basic like sports games like volleyball and that sort of stuff, like I would still, there's still more there than there is with this. Like this is just punishing to the player and not really satisfying unless there's some like amazingly hidden depth to this thing, which I fail to believe. But I've just never found a redemption arc to this game at all. I just can't enjoy playing it.
Yeah, they take way too long too, right? Because
Yeah, that's the problem.
it
Yeah.
there's even if it was like one screen, that maybe would be, but yeah, you have to get the guy across 3 screens, and then constantly like losing ground, which I guess sure you can't have, you just steamroll them, but
Right.
it just feels bad to just be like in a deadlock heat about in in front of the bank,
Mm-hmm.
because you can't get anywhere, and it just doesn't seem that fun. Yet
No.
Nintendo parades it around all the time. They're like, here's
Yeah.
Urban Champion again.
Why this came back? I mean, this even got printed out as a fucking e-reader set, like for some goddamn reason. And like the best case scenario with this game really is like the two-player versus, right?
Hmm.
But then it's still even, what friend would you invite over to play this with where they would go more than one round and be like, yeah, let's do that again. Like that
Yeah,
was great. Like no, nobody's gonna ask to play again. I don't
it's
know.
something weird that somebody took this game and changed one simple mechanic about it and made it great. And that's Nidhogg. Have you ever played that game?
Yes.
That's Urban Champion, except
Sure.
instead of like pushing the other guy, you're trying to get past him to the next screen.
Yeah, you're not actually wrong. It's pretty fucking close. And there's a little more depth in like
It's
I guess
faster
the
and stuff like that, for
weapons
sure.
and well,
But
I'm thinking Nidhogg too, but yeah, Nidhogg is closer. You're right.
yeah, the first one, it's having your weapon high or low, and like I guess there's a throw too. But
I think there though the the thing that makes it fun is the fact that it doesn't waste your time, right? Like
yeah,
even in a very evened match, like somebody's gonna break away and the thing's gonna be over in like a minute and a half, right?
right. And that's the most exciting part, is like when you're stuck on a screen and you're just still like fighting for territory.
Yeah.
That feels really good in that game. Whereas in Urban Champion, it feels like an absolute slog.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, this you know, this there's a couple other examples of black box games where I just feel like pinball is an example too, where I feel like these are just prettier versions of an Atari 2600 game.
Yeah.
Is what it boils down to. It's just like that's not enough. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
The graphical enhancements don't make it worth playing.
I it's it is one of the most detailed black box games
Sure,
for
that's true.
graphics.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's got a good world. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, it does look nice for the era. The sound design is what you'd expect for that era, but it's
Yeah.
just, yeah, it's just not a fun game to play. It's not rewarding. There's just not a good loop. It's too shallow. Even as like an arcade game, this would suck because it would still just be, smacking on buttons and hoping for the best. And
Yeah, because
there's probably
eventually,
like,
what's the difficulty? It's basically just like reading your buttons and countering them, and that just doesn't feel fun at all. Then
right, somewhere out there, there's like a urban champion who's just like mastered this game, but we're pissing him off. But that person's not going to be me.
there's probably these fighting tournaments. There's probably urban champion things happening in some hotel rooms or something like that.
What's kind of sacrilegious is that the ice climbers get playable characters in Smash, but like this Jinko jean wearing ruffian with his long sleeve shirt doesn't get. I mean, I know there's like an assist trophy. I think maybe in the
Yeah, I think
newest
so.
one. I do love too that there's like absolute. I'm sure the manual has something. I should have looked, but there's just like zero premise for this. It's like you pop right into the game. You're just two dudes like no explanation, just wailing on each other. So stupid. They're not, yeah, because they're not even like fighters. They're just like two random dude characters who are just, we're just gonna beat the shit out of each other. It's fine. Well, what are you gonna give this thing? I guess it's probably a big surprise. Byron Burn scale. Where are you putting it?
I think even when this came out, I would have been disappointed in it if I ever got this, even as a rental. I think this would be a terrible rent. I mean, the game is, you might get a half hour out of it if you're lucky. Maybe 2-player, it becomes a little bit more of a battleground type game. Have a little bit more fun, but yeah, this is gonna be a burn for me. I just it's good for what it sets out to do, but at that point, it was not enough.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly would burn this. There's just, yeah, like you said, even for the time, this would have been a letdown. The draw I think early on would have been the visuals, like you mentioned. I bet it looks really good on the back of the box, in those early days. But there's a reason that we didn't see sequels to Urban Champion for sure.
Yeah. Well, they didn't know how to do fighting games yet quite at that point either, so.
It's true. And I mean, fighting games really good ones require at least 3 buttons, right? Yeah, 2-button mechanic is just pretty shallow for a fighting game.
Yeah, if this had a jump, you could just jump over the other guy.
You could huck yourself into the manhole and end your misery.
Yep. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Where'd that guy go? What? Yeah, you just shove him down there, and it's like you're just on a bloodlust to shove another guy down a manhole after that.
Then it becomes a whole other game. It just like pivots into like Turtles game.
Great. Yep.
Well, I'm glad we can cross this one off our list. We don't need to revisit that ever again.
I don't think I'll ever play Urban Champion again. There's no reason to.
No.
Not a single reason.
If you hate yourself, I guess.
Nice try, Nintendo. You're not getting me again.
Well, they got the last laugh because we're paying for the annual subscription to have access to it, right?
Yep. Well, between that and Donkey Kong Math, I mean, we're really sitting good for first party Nintendo NES games.
What is the deal with some of the choices they've made there? And it's pissed me off for a long time, but like, why is the NES section of the Switch Online so egregious with its different sized box art? I mean, all of them are somewhat inconsistent, but the NES one is just like all over the place.
Yeah. Yep.
It's like 10 by 10 pixels or like 1200 by 1600. It's like, I don't know what we're doing here.
Yeah. And then the Famicom ones thrown in that are sideways.
Yeah, completely different. Yeah. If you're a physical collector who takes pride in like organizing your games in a logical way, it's like the biggest digital slap in the face to have something like that. Nintendo.
He'll get internet right next time on the Switch too.
Yeah. I mean, I just hope they have spent like 50 cents more and gotten like a decent like Wi-Fi uh feature, because like the Switch has like one of the worst ranges for picking up and recognizing Wi-Fi of like any device I've ever owned. I'm pretty sure like my wireless garage door opener has like better radius than that. It's bad. Let's just go back to the Sony model and we'll just do you'll just pay for 5G and have a subscription plan.
Yeah, but PSN might be down, so just
Yeah, that was down last week, right?
yeah. Couldn't play games, even physical games. Just that's harder. That's harder.
Really?
A lot of people couldn't play their physical games. Yeah.
That's insane because you need a DRM for them, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
There's probably a way that they don't know. You can turn your thing into an offline mode or something, and then it works. I don't know. I didn't look into it too much, but
The Ubisoft mode, you mean? Go to airplane mode so you don't have to use your stupid Ubisoft platform? That's how I play all those games.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, before we ramble on more, I suppose we should wrap this thing up, eh?
That's right. You can tell us what you think about Urban Champion in a very detailed email.
If there are any genuine fans out there, please let me know. I'd be curious as to why you think that's a good game.
And why you haven't played Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat afterwards.
Right.
Or Punch Out or
anything.
You stop there. Yeah, our email address is weekendrentalpodcast@gmail.com. We're also on Blue Sky. I also have a Blue Sky that I'm doing as well.
Yes, you're Weekend Andy, right?
Yep.
So you only post on the weekends.
Yeah. Trying to do it most days, but we'll see. Like you said, you don't get much on that Blue Sky. So we need you guys. Hop on there.
Mm-hmm. Send us your gifts.
Yes. But until next time, be kind, rewind.